So we've got a good crowd coming tonight. We've got some amazing guests for the panelists. I'm really excited to be able to host today. So we're very excited for that. And I wanted to see for you, as you guys are dropping in the chat where you're coming in from, who you're excited to see tonight, who you're excited to hear from, and what you're excited to hear about. So we're going to have a really good time tonight. So this is Grow Your Wealth Mindset. And what I learned a number of years ago is that mindset obviously is a huge part of growing your wealth. And, somebody can just say they want to be wealthy. They can say, oh, but, I didn't come from money. I didn't come from a place where I'm wealthy. Well, it turns out 86% of millionaires are self-made. So it means that they did not inherit money, did not come from their own. And honestly, there's a little bit of selfishness I have in doing this event. I wrote this book behind me called Fire Yourself. And then I'm actually writing my second book now called Rich Brain, which is how the wealthy change their brain to change their bank account. And so a lot of it, what I've realized is that over the 25 interviews I've had with wealthy people, is that it's how we think about ourselves. There's a worthiness component, and being able to step into wealth requires that we change the way that we think. So awesome. We got some other people. We got Greg from New Zealand, people all over the world here. Love it, love it, love it. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests here. We have one guest who is, I'm hoping, on his way. I've been reaching out to him, but we're going to go ahead and welcome them up to the webinar. We're going to have a good time. So, and maybe just, again, drop in the chat who you're looking to see and what you're looking to talk about tonight. We will do some Q&A toward the end here, but let me go ahead and introduce our amazing panelists. Some of you know them and love them. They are awesome. We'll start with Dave Wolcott from Pantheon Investments. Really excited you're here, brother. He works with high net worth individuals and super high net worth individuals, lives in the sunny state of Florida, and does a lot of alternative investments outside of real estate. Really excited to have you today, Dave. How you doing?
Thanks, Bronson. Grateful to be here and connect with you and the audience.
I love it, man. Like, really excited for the value you have to offer and what you bring to your audience. I think it's going to be really great what you're going to share today. So, and then we have Tom Burns, who has raised, I believe, over $400 million for real estate projects and has done over $1 billion in real estate. He's also a former physician. He said he's fully retired from the medical side. He was doing 3 full-time jobs. Now I think he's down to 2, but he is the lead at Carbon Capital and has done a lot in real estate, both in development as well as acquisitions. Tom, how are you today?
Doing great, Bronson. Grateful to be here. Thanks.
Really excited to have you, man. This is awesome. So we're going to get into growing your wealth mindset. We're going to get into what it takes to grow. We're going to talk both on what's happening today in the market. It's very difficult a lot of times for us to make a shift mentally when we know we should be buying, and yet it's hard when you've had a loss or you're seeing people having losses. That's the time to actually start ramping the truck and be able to buy more. So let's kind of go through some questions and kind of getting to know each of you. Let's just talk let's start with Tom on this one, but can you share a defining moment that significantly shifted your mindset toward wealth creation?
Mine was a long time ago. I can barely remember. You can see the gray hair on my head. Quite honestly, as you mentioned, I was a doctor, and I was watching the folks that were teaching me how to be a doctor. And, so they were in what Kiyosaki would call that the S quadrant, right? They kind of were trapped in their own job, and they weren't very happy. So that's what made me realize that I didn't necessarily want their money if I had to have their life. So I started looking for alternate sources of income. Didn't know it was passive income, didn't know really those terms, but I knew something had to change.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And so you got into real estate, and how did you kind of get going there on the real estate side?
I looked at a bunch of ways to make money, and none of them made sense except real estate. I was pretty busy, and early on didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. So I just kind of learned, and I picked real estate because of the speed. It moved slow. I could use partners. I could do it part-time. It just fit the, kind of the schedule of what was a busy surgeon, which was me at that time. Then, I did learn about the benefits of real estate. So, I started enjoying the cash flow and the tax benefits. And, as the years went on, the other couple of benefits really took hold. So real estate's been good to me, especially over the long term.
That's great. I know you stopped by a gas station years ago and picked up one of the original copies of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so I know there was a time where you actually gave one of these copies back to Robert Kiyosaki years ago. It was an event where you did that. That was really amazing. So you kind of encountered this stuff. You were an early adopter, I should say, in some of that.
Right on. Yeah, actually, it was the first copy I ever bought. So bought it at a gas station. At a car wash. So, It was in the mode at the time to learn about money, learn about wealth, learn about real estate. I just wanted a little bit extra coming in. I didn't want to quit my job, but I also didn't want to be trapped by my job. And so just, the beauty of compounding in time, it made enough money to let me decide whether I wanted to work or not.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love that. Not many people can, and actually nobody else can say they bought the first copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So well done with that. That was good. So obviously you did something right there. So awesome. David Morgan, welcome. We have you in the house. Excited to have you come in and join. And you got a lot of your crew here as well. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It was actually I was connected, but it wasn't from your end showing up. So I left the webinar and reconnected with a different link, and here I am. So been here the whole time.
Okay, nice. He's like a ghost. You can't see him, but he's there. So awesome. Good to have you, man. Let's go to you with this. We're talking about growth, growing your wealth, and the mindset it takes to grow wealth. Can you share a moment that really shifted your mindset toward wealth creation?
It's a real tough one for me, Bronson. I mean, my dad was a real estate investor, so I saw all the things, and I missed some of what Tom said because I had to reconnect, but saw the tax advantages and all that. It just wasn't for me. And I was, overeducated as a youth. I've told the story numerous times. I'm almost tired of telling it, but I used to get 25 cents a week allowance for watering all these, orchard that my dad had and cleaning my room and, kind of the not quite military upbringing. And the quarters changed from 90% silver to these cupro nickel things. I thought this can't be the same value, but none of the adults seem to think about it at all. So that kind of got me on a different path. Let's say that I actually question what the heck is money, and if it's not silver, then what is it, and why does it matter, or does it matter? So I've been more bent on mindset of wealth preservation than I am capital gains, but I've certainly made extreme capital gains, some great trades, and a lot of knowledge as far as the alternative investments. I just had a tough time. My first rental, the guy put a new Cadillac in the driveway, but he couldn't pay the rent, so I just got off to kind of a bad start. But certainly my dad was a very successful real estate investor, so I'm well aware of that aspect. I just took a different path.
So just a quick introduction too for David. He has a publication called The Morgan Report, has written multiple books, and is really in the precious metal space. Silver, gold, has mentored a lot of people. We had Jay Martin on here a little while ago. He said that you were a mentor to him, and you've mentored a lot of people kind of in the space. So really honored to have you today, David. So welcome. Also, let's go to Dave Wolcott. So let's talk just a moment that you had a mindset shift. It could be around wealth creation, or it could be just around the way you view wealth and a wealth mindset.
Yeah, sure, Bronson. So for me, it all started on October 24th, 2000. And my wife and I actually won the baby lottery and had triplets. And we also had another toddler running around. So we literally quadrupled the size of our family overnight. And, the first thing that I did was go to see my financial planner. And he kept just telling me the same advice that every other one said, which is, just dollar cost average, max out your 401k. You can put money in 529 plans for your kids. And I just knew at that point, Bronson, that, there had to be a better way. And I knew the top 1% were not building their wealth that way as a retail investor in the stock market. So that's what launched really an obsessive journey for me to really unpack how the ultra wealthy were really building wealth.
Yeah, it's amazing how people that are wealthy think very differently. I don't know, were you an investment advisor at one point, Dave?
No.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but you were David? David, you were an investment advisor?
No, I worked for one.
Oh, you did? Okay. I was an investment advisor for a few years. It's called an RIA, registered investment advisor. I call myself a recovering investment advisor now because I just can't, because I've just never seen anybody actually become wealthy through it. Some people can preserve wealth. There's some preservation strategies, but if you do the traditional buy stocks, buy and all, it benefits Wall Street and a lot of big firms, but it really puts you at risk. And of course, stocks and bonds that are traditional. Of course, I'm preaching to the crowd here. You guys are all alternative guys, but I've just realized people that generate wealth, it's always outside of kind of traditional methods. I want to talk to you for something. Ask you guys this question because again, I don't know if each of you maybe could talk about whether you came from an affluent home, or this is a little bit personal, but whether you came from an affluent home or not, or kind of how you kind of saw yourself that wealth was to be a part of your life. For example, in my book, I talked about this, my new book coming up, 2,500 interviews. I've realized that a lot of people that are, worth $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, there was this sense of like, they had a mindset shift where they personally started to feel worthy of receiving and generating, having wealth. A lot of times we can sabotage. Maybe we think that, money is the root of all evil, or we have these beliefs that are limiting, like where we think that it's not okay for me to have wealth, or it's good for other people, but it's not me. Maybe you guys have never struggled with that at all. I think for me, it was just kind of getting past, oh, am I able to do this? Am I able to create something great that's really super valuable? And then once I shifted some of those mindsets, and then I really felt worthy of it. Brené Brown talks about the difference between people that have great things and achieve great things and those that don't, is that the first group felt worthy of it. So there's this idea of you feeling worthy of it first and then you stepping in it. And maybe that happens over time, but can anybody share an example of that, of just how have you always felt like wealth was, because I look at all of each of you and I see you guys are both, you guys are all three of you are very wealthy. Was that something that developed in you over time, or was that something that you intentionally did affirmations, or you did things to kind of develop that wealth worthiness for yourself? And somebody can just jump in if they're ready.
Yeah, I'll jump in then. So, I mean, for me, look, I was raised in a middle class family, and we did okay, right? But there was a lot of things that we didn't have in life, and it was basically a scarcity mindset, right? We grew up with scarcity. And that really persisted, even though I went on into college and started my career. Got into the Marine Corps, but there was still this underlying, scarcity, right, type of mindset. And I think once you can actually start to shift and transition into an abundance mindset, that is the massive shift. And that doesn't really happen overnight. It takes a lot of work. And one of the great interviews I did on my podcast a couple months ago was with Charlie Garcia. He runs R360, which is a centimillionaire community. So they have over 130 members. Average net worth is $400 million. And he said that the one specific trait that everyone had in common was self-awareness. So really understanding who you are as a person. And we spent a lot of time with our investors and our mastermind community around focusing on actually investor DNA and really understanding yourself. And that's what's going to really help you become a better investor. And ultimately, as we talked about, money is really just, it's just a means of exchange. It's oxygen. So really, why are you trying to grow your wealth, right? Is it to achieve deeper relationships? Is it to achieve better health, right? Really understand that purpose of what's behind it.
Yeah, that's a really good word. Yeah, what's the purpose behind it? And you said the DNA of what it's supposed to look like. That's great. Tom or David, do you guys want to chime in on that?
Yeah.
You go, David.
Okay, thank you. Hope to keep this brief. So my dad was a successful real estate investor, but he had a big setback because the partner he went in with, and it's my dad's fault for not reading the contracts, but he got burned pretty badly. And I'd always been interested in that. So I'm in my master's degree for finance. There's a guy in the class whose dad's a doctor, or his wife's dad is a doctor, and he's making all these gains from this financial planner. So I went to see this guy. I was doing okay on my own, in fact, well above average, but I didn't know at the time. And this is the financial planner I ended up working for later. Bottom line was, he brought to my attention the cellular phone industry at the very inception. So I brought that idea to my dad. My dad said, "Oh my goodness, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. It'd be like getting Microsoft at the very beginning, or pick your favorite FANG stock or whatever." And so my dad just went all out with it, and he started his own engineering firm making these applications. Well, we had bought into a group partnership where it was like $5,000 per person to be one of 5 for the lottery. My dad found out you could actually make a very acceptable FCC application for $500. So he started his own firm, and he started to put in applications all over the place. And lo and behold, he won a couple of very big markets right about the time he retired. So he retired from a very middle class, pretty good real estate portfolio, but nothing to brag about. but then he hit the Washington, D.C. market and another one in the cellular phone industry. So I'm quite familiar with that market. And the idea, I think, more than anything else, is no matter what setback my parents or my dad faced, he always believed that he could do it. It was going to happen. And all he had to do was pay attention. There's an opportunity. And he took advantage of the cellular phone industry and ended up doing quite well at the time he retired. So it's a nice story for me. I hope everyone enjoyed it. But there are opportunities in my belief system out there. I wouldn't say continuously, but they're there. It's just that people, as I think Dave said, and I'm not going to speak for Tom, you just don't see them. You got to believe something, like you said, Bronson, you did a great job. There is stuff out there. You just have to be able to find it. And you got to be a maverick. I mean, my mom said, who would want their own personal phone? Are you nuts? You guys are crazy. Yeah, crazy. But it worked.
I love it. Yeah. And being willing to be unconventional, right? Do something a little different is huge too, and going after it. So love it. Tom, what do you got?
Short, middle class family, right? My dad was a cop, and he used to tell me I had champagne taste on a beer budget, right? But Bronson, I never wanted to really be wealthy, I don't think, or maybe I did. I don't know. I just didn't want anybody telling me what to do, and I figured the only way around that was to, have my own money coming in, and I could decide what I wanted to do with my time. And then, just by kind of having that was the sole focus. And then all of a sudden it turned into, numbers that one would call wealthy. So, I will tell you, it's been a continuous journey. I probably still fight imposter syndrome every day. I find myself in situations that I think, how the hell did I get here? And how am I hanging out with these folks and doing this stuff? So, my purpose was to lead a life that I was proud of and had control of and could spend time with my family. That led to wealth, I think, however you define it. So, and there's a lot of ways to define wealth for sure.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've always appreciated your humble approach, Tom, that you, just showing up, trying to help. And just, I think there's a lot to said of, hey, just what can I learn? How can I contribute? And I think all three of you are really looking for opportunities. We were talking, Dave's going to conferences and meeting with private equity partners and looking for things. We're doing the same. And so I think it's great. Love to hear in the chat, just any specific things that you are liking or things you would like us to chat about. I've got some things we're going to chat about kind of in each different area. But let's go to Dave on this. But talk to a little bit about your mindset that has kind of gone into kind of similar to our group, Bronson Equity. We've gone on a lot of alternatives to real estate. We're still doing real estate, but we're doing a lot of alternatives such as businesses, e-commerce businesses, oil and gas, ATMs, other things as well. Can you talk a little bit about kind of that mindset shift it takes to go into real estate and even things beyond real estate?
Yeah, I mean, for me, right, I started as an LP investor myself, back in 2000. And so as much as I invested in real estate, I liked real estate. I was never a one-trick pony. I actually invested in oil and gas back in 2001. I've invested in multiple different asset classes and run different businesses as well. And I think when you start to look at different asset allocation models, like if you look at Tiger 21's asset allocation model, you'll see that they only have about 25% allocated to real estate, about 25% to private equity, and some other categories, right, that I think are very key. And the reason being, right, is right like what we're seeing right now with all the interest rates that are really, making it difficult to get good assets, right, on the multifamily side and things in real estate. So the more that you can, invest in, have a diversified set of asset classes that really support your goals and what you're trying to achieve, the better off you're going to be as an investor.
Yeah, that's great. No, absolutely. And I always say there's really three reasons people invest with us, and it's really to solve three different problems. One are cash flow, appreciation, or tax benefits. And there's different investments that do each of those, right? And there are different parameters, of course, of each of those as well. David, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the metal space? Obviously, you talked about having that shift and discovering that they're removing silver from the coins, and that's a big deal. But how do you find for a lot of people? I mean, I've gone from owning literally no gold and silver to have a fair amount. I mean, I don't know, probably 10% of my net worth or something in metals, right? So what do you think causes people, or what are some of the cases for it for people that maybe aren't as familiar with it? I know you talk with a lot of sophisticated, metals investors. I'd love just kind of an overview of kind of when someone's looking at the space, what are some of the high level benefits that you found it takes to get into metals?
Well, the whole deal is, what I do is two things. One, I teach wealth preservation, and that's through the hard asset sector. And of course, there's nothing more rank speculation than like the junior mining industry. I mean, it was the Bitcoin before Bitcoin evolved. So, there's kind of two extremes there. But if you look at the founding of the Federal Reserve in 1913, if your rich uncle gave you $1 million, obviously, 110 years later, 111 years later, it's worth $1 million in currency. But the gold price was $20 an ounce, which would be 50,000 gold coins. And in today's price, that's $115 million over 111 years. So on aggregate, it went up $1 million a year over year. Now, that's not, that's the average. But the point being, if you go to the Minneapolis Fed and look at their CPI, it'll tell you that $1 million in 1913 is 31 million now. Well, that's based on the government's statistics for the consumer price index. So, since I was so obsessed about money at such a young age, and I did so much of my work on my own to discover the history of money and what happens at the end of all these great inflations and how much it really turns against the people. It works for a while. I mean, you can print wealth for a while, but if you can print wealth indefinitely, Zimbabwe would be the richest, nation state on the planet, and it's not. So that was a concern of mine, and that's kind of what I focus on. But as far as the idea that, gold does this or does that, the facts speak for themselves. And on the silver side, it's kind of a more volatile gold. It's sort of like the difference between the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is more of a relationship with silver, but silver is certainly the most undervalued commodity. And one more thing real quick, but I do the charting I'm not a big trader. I'm a position trader. I shorted the palladium and went long platinum, huge trade for months and months and months, buckets and buckets of money. If you look at that trade, I did the same thing with gold and copper way back in the early 2000s. But silver right now is really an undervalued asset relative to almost anything you want to measure against it. So early on in 2019, after the financial crisis, 2009, I saw a channel formation sit on the breakout. I'm going long. I went long at, I forget the exact price, 19 or something like that, went to 26. They announced QE2. I got back in. So I rode that thing from 19 to 48. I called the top 3 days before the exact top, and I had numerous emails. I've retired. I met my financial goals times 10. I can't believe you called it this well. Blah, 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 blah. Now, not everyone was happy with me because people in my own group said, I'm losing my reputation. You're never going to be able to walk the street again. Silver's going to 100. You're going to look like an absolute fool. You're an idiot. What the hell are you doing? Well, I did call the top, but I didn't get any thank you letters from those guys in my own peer group. So I have to give it back to you.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great story. You get some good stories for sure. Yeah, I like metals, 5,000 year history of being money or 5,000 plus years. And, it actually stores value versus these other things. Just creating so much currency. There's no way to slow that down. So how do you, preserve wealth, especially in these times? So, Tom, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you're involved with and I guess for investors, I know you've been in some development, you're doing acquisitions. Talk a little bit about, what you're seeing right now in kind of the real estate markets you're working in and what it takes to be involved with those projects.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and I've been in the alternative since the mid 80s or late 80s. So I'm with both of these guys on alternative stuff beyond real estate, but it's been a good run since 2010, 11. It's right now it's a bit of a rough ride for the multifamily world, but I think the long-term fundamentals are still there. So both for developers and for acquisitions. So, our thesis is that anything we can buy that makes sense right now is going to certainly going to be work, but in 12 to 18 months, when the supply kind of falls off a cliff, I think there's going to be pressure on rents, and the supply, the demand's still going to be there and the supply is going to come down. So I think long term, I think still we're underbuilt. That's an easy line to call just because everybody knows we're still underbuilt. So I think the rental market's going to be in good shape for a while. I think that the interest rates and home prices and the lack of home supply is going to keep buyers out of the buyer market and into our rental pool. Nothing lasts forever, but I do think in 12 to 18 months it's going to be a nice period for multifamily. But like anything, you've really got to have a sharp pencil. You got to know what you're doing. And because, like I was telling Dave, we underwrite 3,000 deals a year. We did none last year. We did one deal so far this year. So there's deals out there, but they're a little hard to find. So I think real estate's still stable as an asset, and there are a lot of alternatives out there. Certainly the private credit is hot right now. Build to rent is hot right now. Apartments aren't, but I think they will be given time.
Yeah, I think apartments. We've been out of we still have our apartments, but we've been getting back into it now. Just after a couple of years of not doing any new deals, we're just starting to get back in. We're seeing some stuff, discounted 20, 30+% of where it was in great markets, a couple of years ago, which is pretty great. Let's go back to a minute for mindset. This is really we're talking about mindset. We're going to get into some specifics as well, and just where we headed and what's happening in the markets and things like that. But I think it's really interesting because I've realized for myself, a lot of times I'll think that I want to just move forward in a certain area of my life, but I have there's this resistance there. And so for a lot of people that I know, and I'm sure we all know people like this too, that maybe their family members or friends, and they just struggle financially. They just really struggle. And maybe I think if you're an entrepreneur at times, you'll have areas where you struggle as well. You go through major challenges. But what are some things that you would say to someone who, is doing fine? They've got a job, they've got things there, but maybe they want to start investing or become an active investor, or there's some mindset, there's some limitation of feeling like, could I pull that off? Could I actually do it? Could I actually become financially free? Could I start the business? Could I become wealthy? Because wealth really is a tool, right? It's not just, I think all of us here, it's not about the yachts and Mai Tai lifestyle. It's about really, what sort of legacy and impact and what do you want to make? But what are the specific mind shifts that you think, if you had somebody who was a relative or even, one of your kids, or it was a neighbor or something, and they're like, how do I learn more about wealth? I had this conversation with a Uber driver. I was talking to an investor about something, and I just got off the phone, and they're like, how do I learn about money? Like, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? And so, Dave, why don't we start with you on that one?
Yeah, sure. I think it's really important for people to really understand the neuroscience, right? That's really operating in our brain. And if you've ever heard Dr. Jeff Spencer, he's amazing. He's actually one of the top really Jedi coaches in the world. He's coached Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods, Bono, Maria Sharapova. I mean, you name it. And really amazing guy. But he talks about the champion's mindset. And then he also talks about the human mindset, right? So, and the human mindset is what we were, put on this earth to do, which is sense danger, right? Looking for that saber-toothed tiger and things like that. And so when you expose yourself to, let's say, the media in the morning, if you get up in the morning and you look at your phone and you see a sea of red, or you start reacting to different things that are coming into you, your brain is going to see that danger and you're going to want to run for the hills. So you're going to probably call up David and say, I want to put everything into, precious metals, right? So it's really important to understand that our brains naturally want to revert to these types of things, right? And then find different ways that you can manage that through setting up a proper morning routine, exercise, meditation, journaling, right? So that you're not impacted by those, and then transition to the, champion's mindset, which is a mindset based on future, right? It's based on potential. Right. And I know Tom has worked with, Olympic skiers as well and everything. And just think about what those types of, Olympians have to do to really overcome all odds and move away from, the things that are driving you towards that, fear and scarcity. And a lot of this in the investing space is all around fear, right? So how can you manage that?
That's great. Love that. No, it is so true. It's just for the champion's mindset. I'm reading this book by Benjamin Hardy right now, and it's kind of a pre-release. It's called Rapid Transformation. He talks about this creating your future self now. Like, what's the you 5 years from now that's got a 10x net worth or has achieved these great goals? Well, that's the case. You create that and you start to live out of that rather than your present reality, right? So it almost like fills in what you need to do from here to there. So it's kind of cool to be able to really change your mindset. Tom, what about you?
First I agree with Dave. You gotta, you need to filter out the negative, for sure. And you can try to build that champion's mindset, but I would probably tell that Uber driver as well that the world doesn't owe you anything and you're going to screw up and you got to learn how to get punched in the face and get back up. It's just, I think I think we all need to hang around people who have done it. That helps. That's another human thing. You think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And Dave said it. The first thing we think of is survival. Then we're pushing towards comfort and self-actualization. So it's a stepwise process. So you get knocked down and you don't get back up, you're not going to get past that next level. So try to hang around with people who have reached the levels, who have walked the walk you want to walk, and learn from their mistakes and learn how to do it, learn that you can do it. And the best investment and wealth hack of all time is just persistence. Just don't quit, and learn how to get up and do it again. And the world of compounding will take over. If you just do something every day to get a little bit better each day, you'll reach your goal, whether it's to have bigger biceps or a bigger bank account.
I love that. How do you, I love the, you mentioned this, the Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Right. But what do you do? How do you, like, I know you have a lot of inner grit. I mean, you're a very kind, gentle person, but I know there's a fierceness inside of you as well. Like, how do you keep yourself going in the face of adversity like that?
I think I've been punched so many times that I've gotten to realize that, good things do come out of bad. Sometimes even, again, this gray hair has taught me that, whenever something bad has happened, if you get enough time, you can look back and realize that there's some lesson for it. Tell your audience I'm sitting in my church now, so I can't lie to you. But I have to, absolutely get in really bad times, you get down, but you can't stay there. You just can't stay there. You have to realize, look, I'm still going to live my life. So I try to compartmentalize, try to look for solutions. They're not always there, but deep inside, I know that whatever the result of this calamity or this bad thing that's happened, it's going to be temporary. I am not a failure. It's just a failure of something that happened, and that I know something good will eventually come of it. And it's either greater knowledge for the next deal, or you meet somebody new, or or a change in your mindset. So I'm a firm, staunch believer that of the yin and the yang, and the fact that something good's always going to come from it. That helps me keep going. So that's how I do it.
I love it, guys. Real gold here. Seriously, let's give these guys some love in the chat. If you're loving what they're sharing, I'm really loving it as well. And speaking of gold, David, why don't you give us some? What do you tell people? How do you're reframing things a lot for people? So how would you share that with a neighbor or somebody who's like, hey, I want to learn finance. I want to get into understanding. How do I grow, or how to at least preserve what I've got?
Yeah, it's really hard to add on to what Dave and Tom said, but I'll give it a shot. First of all, I have the champion mindset and the poster back here. You can't see it. But I would say passion is what drove me. I just had a passion. And I think, when I started out, my dad was very stoic. But one thing he said to me, and it just said it once, but it really stuck with me. He goes, you know something, David? Yes, Dad. I want you to know you're as good as anybody, but you're not better than anyone either. And kind of having that, smash in your face reality kind of put me into the, to my own self be true, maybe overstated. But I went from there, and I just had such a passion about money and how it functioned. And I had just such a drive, and it was the drive. I mean, honestly, guys, when I started my website, I made $6,000 for the year. And I mean, that's nothing to brag about. Now I make that in a day or so, I mean, it's changed. But if I didn't have the perseverance and the passion to go along with it, I think most people would have given up. But I saw my dad get really taken back in the real estate investing, where he lost maybe half his net worth over a 10-year period due to not really reading the contracts. Again, I'll put the blame where it belongs. It belonged on him. But he persevered and overcame it, and he believed that he could overcome it. So one last thing I want to add as I was thinking about it is, the idea of what is enough, and that's something that in my documentary, can I say it, silversunrise.tv, it's all about the fear and obsession that most people have about money. If you Google what's the number one fear of people on the planet, it's about money. It causes more divorces and all this. And I want to alleviate that. I want to kind of turn Maslow's hierarchy of needs upside down, that you wake up and you learn by the time you get through sixth grade that you are enough. Just you and of yourself are enough. And if you have that kind of an attitude, we talked about earlier, and you brought it to the fore, Bronson, that's where you start. No matter what I win or lose on the way, I know that I by myself am enough. I can't take it with you. Even Alexander the Great said, bury me with my hands open, showing I can't take it with me. So I've got this idea that there's this balance. And I think Dave and Tom really did a great prelude for me. Hopefully I was additive to that, because it's not what you get being a millionaire. It's what you learn on the journey to becoming a millionaire that has the most value, at least in my life.
Yeah, love it. That's great. That's great. We're going to get into some questions here in a little bit. So if you have questions, you can feel free to start putting those in the chat or the Q&A. I wanted to get into kind of where we're at right now on a real practical level. This has been a great, mindset chat as far as where each of you have come from. I would think it's really interesting to hear how people that are very successful, how they've gotten there, and what are the steps that they've done to be able to get there. But what are you seeing? What are some of the opportunities you're seeing right now? I know there's a lot of fear in certain areas, especially in parts of real estate or other sorts of things. When people have had some losses, or just maybe not feeling this kind of that wealth effect. We're feeling in some ways, a lot of people are feeling less wealthy for various reasons. Dave, can you talk a little bit about that? Just what are some of the current opportunities that you're seeing, even any areas of interest that you're looking at, assets that you're finding interest in, and just kind of across the board, what you find is an opportunity now?
Yeah, so that really supports our overall thesis. We focus on three specific sectors. So real estate, private credit, and oil and gas, really in the energy space. And reason being is because, all of these asset classes are non-correlated to the market. They support really that three-dimensional profile you talked about earlier, Bronson, right? Trying to reduce your taxes, trying to drive, passive income and some type of forced appreciation. And on the private credit side right now, we've been really taking advantage of the fact that a lot of the bank instability that's been caused over the past year, banks are just tightening their lending standards and not lending to small businesses. But we all know that small businesses are really the lifeblood of this country, and they need capital to grow. So, we've been doing merchant cash advances and, very solid double-digit cash flow returns, low risk that can be mitigated across multiple different industries, and also smaller positions along the way. So we really like that asset class. It's actually been a favorite of the billionaires have been kind of chasing that as well, in that, fixed income portion of the asset allocation. And we're also bullish on energy. Doesn't really matter where you live in the world, what industry you're in, what's happening, but the demand for energy just continues to escalate, especially with, AI is also driving a lot of energy demands, across the world as well. So we're seeing some spikes there. And, as much as the ESG initiatives are, horizon and they're coming out, I think it's a ways to go before they're really in place. So we're still really bullish on oil and gas right now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, energy is the big one. We're going to need it. Housing, a lot of these things, like you said, credit, these are all really things that are very interesting for a lot of reasons. Tom, what are some developing, this can be in your business, this could be personally, just some things that you're finding interesting as far as, where we're at right now and what the opportunities are?
Yeah. core business is real estate, and that's a long-term play. But the interesting stuff, certainly a lot of the folks I hang around are doing a lot of work in the AI world, and I totally agree with Dave. The world grows on energy. Population's going to grow. It needs energy, and oil and gas is going to be around for a long time. I like the AI space. I've been looking at a lot of seed stage and A and B round small companies. Personally, I'm a big fan of private credit, so usually use the larger firms that we talk to quite frequently. So that's where I put my personal money there if I want to just kind of let it sit for a while. So nothing else that exciting. I think AI and energy is going to be. I think energy prices are going to rise, and that's echoed by the big fund managers that run the oil and gas. I think things have been artificially kept low. So I think those are going to rise over time, and that's going to multiply profits as well. So I'm sort of looking for long-term opportunities and short-term sticking with that private credit right now, as well as doing the real estate for the long-term play. It's more of a 5 to 10 year vision on the real estate.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with all that. I think you guys kind of said very similar things. Coming back to energy there, as you look at, I love that we're all in green everything, but we just don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the resources. It would take hundreds of years to mine all the stuff we need. And 3 or 4% of the world's power comes from wind and solar after 100 years of them having them. And so the last 10 years, we've just really underinvested in energy. So it's this huge thing. We know, even green people are like, we need a ton more of this. There's no way to, anyway, so it's just interesting how it's become such a lot of companies can't, private equity companies can't invest into it because it's not green enough or something. So it's interesting. So, David, what opportunities are you seeing? Are you seeing I know you're in a lot of different things. You have some stuff you're doing in the crypto space as well, and you've got different types of things outside of metal. So when you talk about some of the things that you're finding personally or even in your business that are interesting now.
Well, I think I'm going to make it the Three Musketeers. I mean, a subset of the Silver Sunrise documentary is breaking free from the stress, fear, and control of money. And one of my kind of aha moments was after I'd spoke in London at one of the major investment conferences there that focused on the resource sector. Someone gave me this DVD, The Man Who Broke Britain. So I thought, it's got to be about George Soros and taking on the Bank of England. No, not at all. It was a BBC, British Broadcasting Corp from the UK. And it was a docudrama that they produced about an oil trade going the wrong way, an oil embargo, and then some real problems with, let's say, stuff flying around in the Middle East. So in that docudrama, they had the finance minister of the UK come on board and be interviewed. And he said, and I cannot do a very good British accent, but here it goes anyway. He goes, well, people think that the world runs on money and finance and that kind of thing, but it doesn't. The world runs on energy. And that was sort of a light bulb for me because it is. And that is a lot of my documentary is talking about energy, if maybe perhaps some of this energy stuff has been suppressed. I don't want to go too far on the digression, but Dr. Stephen Greer is really known for the UFO thing. I'm open-minded. I don't know if there's UFOs or not. I'll state it outright. I don't know. What I do know that this documentary called The Lost Century, he puts out hard facts on many of these energy sources that have been suppressed, bought out, or buried. And that really intrigues me because if we had enough energy for everybody, we would have a whole different world than we have now. So I'm working that into the documentary and just wanted to bring that to the fore. So sorry I had to add on to the energy equation, but that is, everything is energy. And great invitation. I was thrilled to hear from Dave, Tom, and yourself because we need more of these, Bronson. You really came to the fore this time. I've loved every time I've been on, but this one seems real special.
Thanks so much. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's, we can talk about investing and the strategies, whatever, but a lot of it's the mindset, the piece that's kind of below the surface. And I think a lot of us, it's kind of the be, do, have, right? That Robert Kiyosaki talks about. Everybody wants to have all the stuff, but they don't want to actually become the person that's actually wealthy. And so if you want to become somebody who's wealthy, you've got to actually become the person, the way you think, the actions you are, you've got to take those actions and then you have the wealth. That's why for a lot of people, they don't want to take those steps. And the only way to get there is to inherit money from a relative or win the lottery. And even most of those people end up blowing it anyway. So it's just the idea of really investing in yourself. Warren Buffett says the best investment we make really is in ourselves. We do have a time for a few questions here. I wanted to go ahead and take some of these. How do you balance the desire to accumulate more and more money with a healthy mindset of valuing not just money, but other things like family, fun, and friendships? Do you have, or have you ever used any practices or tools to balance yourself? So the question is really about how much is enough, and how do you have a healthy mindset and balance between your ambition as well as, family, friends, and kind of other life goals? Is there any, I think anybody we're all entrepreneurs. So there's been a time where I imagine for all of us, things have been out of balance, but can you talk maybe how you center yourself in that? Maybe we'll start with Dave. I know you do a lot of
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that one. Yeah, sure. So look, I mean, you are your greatest asset, bar none, right? So if you can invest in your health, your relationships, your education, you're going to get a 10x, 100x return 10 times over, right? So that is the absolute best place where people can be investing. And really, the wealth, the money is really a barometer of your success. But if you start actually chasing the numbers and just trying to, grow your net worth and just try to grow these numbers, you're going to be kind of fighting it, right? It's this, force that you're trying to go after. But the best way to do it is just keep investing in yourself. Look at the people, as Tom talked about. Look at you're a product of the 5 people you spend your time with, as Jim Rohn says, right? So, who are you spending your time with? What are you doing? What are your habits? What are your goals? What are your practices? Are you in mastermind groups? Are you attending events like this? Right. I'm constantly, spending on myself and always raising the bar every year. And then other things kind of fall in place. And the same thing with my health, too. I mean, for me, like, health is number one. And constantly, I've been working with a functional medicine doctor. I've got a guy now who's a nutritionist who is a former Olympian. And we're uncovering all kinds of different blind spots that I didn't even realize I had, and just different things. So, and that's all because of having that mindset to, invest in yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Those are all great tips. And the nice thing, when you have more resources too, you're able to be more intentional about these things. A lot of people that, realize it's like, for me, I realized I lost 30 pounds like 6-7 years ago and kept it off. And it's just because I realized my health is really, really important. I want to live a long time. And so I've got to invest in that. And of course, in other ways too. David, what about you? I know we've kind of been going around. We'll come back to you on that. Do you have anything you wanted to add as far as, balance in life and kind of centering yourself, and just when you get kind of out of balance, what kind of helps you to come back to balance?
Well, 2 things. One, from day one till now, for the 25 years I published the Morgan Report, every letter I've written has said, wishing you health above wealth, wisdom beyond knowledge. And that's because the old adage that if you have your health, you're as rich as any king. And secondly, wisdom beyond knowledge, because a lot of us have the knowledge, but if we don't apply it, it really doesn't mean that much. I mean, most of us know how to eat correctly or know not to eat too many calories, but that's just the knowledge. Wisdom is knowing how life works and applying it on a daily basis. But one final story about the richest guy in the mining industry is named Robert Friedland. And a guy in my industry that's well known to our group, meaning, resource investors, is named Jim Dines. And Jim was at a speaker dinner where that we gather, and he was kind of pimping Robert, saying, I'm worth more than you. I'm worth more than you. And of course, Robert wasn't. I mean, Jim was certainly well off, but not the level of Robert Friedland with a couple private jets and got, probably the richest guy in the mining business. And so he finally jumped on Jim and he said, what do you mean? I could buy and sell you so many times. He goes, no, I'm worth more than you because I have enough. And I think that's a lesson that we all need to learn. I think these 2 gentlemen have it. I'm speaking for them. Maybe I'm wrong. But there's a certain point, what's enough for me might not be enough for someone else. But that satisfaction, like, I'm similar to Tom from the aspect of all I wanted to be was be free. I wanted to do my own thing. If that meant I had to work 12 hours a day, I didn't care. I was doing my passion. I was doing what I wanted. I didn't have a job. I wasn't even working. I was having so damn much fun doing what was in me and letting it out to the world, and they would accept it or they wouldn't. And that first year, I wasn't too sure. I didn't make a lot of money. but I certainly had a good time. So I think that's a big lesson. I love that story that, no, I'm richer than you are because I have enough.
Yeah, love that. I love that. That's huge. It's just being content with what you got, and also, if you have more, if you have a purpose that drives you, you can really, find a way to impact as well. Tom, how do you stay centered? How do you always seem like the pillar of calm and peace, and just always have a great smile on your face. But I know, like you said, you've taken some punches. We all have, but how do you center yourself, and how do you actually, having worked basically 3 full-time jobs, like how have you kept yourself centered in that?
It's just drugs and alcohol. No.
What kind of webinar is this?
No, I'm just kidding. It's easy. I tell you, I want to take off on what Dave said a minute ago. He talked about investing in yourself, and I'll get to I wrote an article recently about asymmetric return, and one of the biggest asymmetric returns with the lowest risk and the highest ceiling is investing in yourself, which is it's something I totally agree with, that we all need to, be trying to better ourselves each day. But as I think back, the way I balanced, and I'm not lying, I didn't have a money goal. I didn't have a number goal. I never knew what my net worth was until the bankers asked for it for loans. I was truly freedom, as David said. So, but I was balancing, Bronson, back before I had the money. Back when it made a difference, I was canceling offices as a doctor so I could be at my daughter or son's school to read to the first graders. That cost me money to do that, but it sure paid some giant dividends over the last 30 years. So that's always been my prime focus. And maybe I was rewarded by a little luck here and there with enough cash flow and enough wealth to kind of do what I wanted to. So I always think about that. I think gratitude is a good way to get out of obstacles and holes when you get in them, is to realize that, as David said, I've got my health, I've got a family that loves me, I've got a good long marriage. So, gratitude's a really good tool to get yourself out of some problems. So I'm not perfect and don't do it all the time, but, I try to keep the priorities straight. The reason I wanted to have that little extra bit of money so I could hang out with my family and travel the world, which is my other hot button. So as long as I'm able to do that, I got enough.
Yeah, love it. Well, I love how you've been able to balance your life, Tom, and create what you want. And for each of you guys, I just want to really say I really appreciate each of you. You all are very commendable, and you've just by the way you live have mentored me in different ways. So I'm really grateful for that, and grateful for this conversation today. On another note, thank you for that question as well, Andrew, in the chat, to ask about kind of life balance as well. I mentioned my new book coming up, Rich Brain. If you have a net worth of over 2 million and you're in the audience, would love to do an interview with you on that, or even our panelists would love to have an interview with you. I put a thing in the chat there just to be able to, I can basically reference you in my book. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look there. And it looks like somebody's got their summary in the chat there too. Patrick put a summary of this event in the chat as well. So we're going to I want to make, that's one announcement. The other announcement real quick is we have an event coming up on, somebody actually asked about AI, but if you're interested in AI, would you just put in the chat AI, if that's something is of interest to you? I know for a lot of people, that seems to be something that people like to talk about. So if there's anybody here that likes talking about AI, but just put that in the chat. Okay, we got a few AIs. AI, please. We've got an event on August 13th where we're going to be talking about generative AI use, particularly within business, or not just within business, but what is next. So I've got somebody who's a VC person in AI, not looking at just. I'm trying to explain this in a way that's, if you start something in generative AI, it probably won't be able to compete with ChatGPT, but there's stuff that's, 1 or 2 or 3 steps down the road people aren't really talking about that are implications of where we're headed, right? So this is going to be some conversation around that. It's going to be August 13th at 4 p.m. Pacific. As India said, AI is broad, so we're going to get in and get some specifics of what that's going to look like. It's going to be a great conversation. We'll probably have some people that run AI companies that are developing in that space. So we'll kind of have some chat about that and how to use it in business as well. Let's go around real quick for each of you and just how people can get in touch with you. If you had anything you wanted to give away, any events coming up you wanted to share, just wanted to share how people can kind of hear more about what you're doing. We do this so people can kind of get to know people in our network as well. And so we can kind of, get to know other great folks and get connected. These are all great guys. Would love to connect you with them. So let's start with Tom, and then we'll kind of work our way around.
Sure. I've got a website. It's called at richdoctor.com. And I do have a newsletter that I put out every week that's got information on real estate, investing, personal development, things like that over 30 years of what I've been doing. So that if you just go to richdoctor.com/newsletter, you can get on that, and you can always contact me at hello@richdoctor.com. So I always like talking to folks.
And he's got a book called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich.
Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. That's right.
Awesome. That's great. We will send out an email with this video as well. I don't know if we'll have each of the Panelist Speak, the website in there. If you want to put that in the chat, Tom, if you just want to type it in there for folks, they can have it and grab it. And why don't we go to David, and how can people follow you, get in touch with what you're doing there?
The easiest way is my website. It's called themorganreport.com. We have a free newsletter and a paid service. You can find more just by going to the website.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David. Appreciate you, brother. Really, really happy to have you here. Appreciate the stories as well. And then Dave, can you share how can people follow what you're doing, get in touch, and be able to reach you?
Yeah, thanks, Bronson. So if people would like a free copy of my book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy, you could just go to holisticwealthstrategy.com and download a free copy of the book. Or you can email me directly as well at dave@pantheoninvest.com.
Great. Awesome, Dave. Well, appreciate you being here as well. And I know each of you guys have groups and masterminds and events. We have a mastermind, we have groups, we have all kinds of stuff going on. So connect with each of these guys. And again, for each of you, I hope that you take time. Obviously, you took time today, so celebrate yourself, that you took time to educate yourself and really invest in yourself as well. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody at the next event. And thank you to all of our panelists as well. Thanks, everybody, for being here.